Hello and welcome. If you're new, I'm Erica and thank you so much for joining me for today's video. So I've had a few requests to do a Hoya video. I thought it would be fun if I share with you my top Hoya tips. We will cover lighting, soil needs, fertilizing, how to get your Hoyas to bloom, and tips for sun stressing. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, let's go ahead and get started. So guys, the first thing we're going to cover today is lighting. So your Hoya's lighting needs are going to vary depending on the type of plant, but I will tell you that most of my Hoyas do really well over here in this east-facing window. So I will turn the camera around and show you guys how much light these Hoyas are getting and what Hoyas I have over here in this window. So currently I have my Hoya curtisii, my Hoya lucanosa mint, my Hoya obliqua splash, and my Hoya callista phylla are some of the plants that I have over in the window right now, and they are all doing really well. So I would suggest that you keep your Hoyas either in an east or west facing window rather than a south facing window where it's going to get a lot of direct sun. But to keep it simple, I just would recommend either a few hours of morning sun or a few hours of late afternoon sun. So that is my first tip if you want to keep your Hoyas in a window. If you don't want to keep your Hoyas in a window, I recommend using Growlights to help supplement lighting, especially if it's a Hoya that needs a little bit higher light. So I like to keep a lot of my smaller Hoyas, such as my cuttings, under Growlights. And these Growlights help supplement the lighting, but they're also great for starting cuttings and encouraging rooting, and even helping to give them a little bit of sun stressing. I find that if I keep my Hoyas in this cabinet behind me, they do end up sun stressing a little bit. I do have a light meter that I use around the house to help me determine how much light the plants are getting. I will link this one in the description for you guys. This one's a pretty affordable one that you can get on Amazon. But this really helps me just get a good estimate on how much light my Hoyas are getting. But most of my Hoyas really do well under a grow light. So if you do not have a good window or the correct amount of natural light, I highly recommend just supplementing their lighting with a grow light. So the next thing we're going to get into is substrates. So my Hoyas are all in different types of substrates, but I do have a standard mix that I like to use for most of my Hoyas. I keep most of my Hoyas in a chunky soil mix. I make sure that it has either some bark or some tree fern, some perlite, and that it dries out a little faster than your standard potty mix. One that I have been loving a lot lately is this Craft Aeroid Mix by Grow Queen. So I was gifted this a couple months ago and I've been using it for a lot of my plants and I just really love it. I especially love all the great ingredients in here. And I did reach out to them and they were able to give me a discount code for you guys. So if you use the code Erica, you can save 15% off your next order, and I will put the link in the description for you guys. So if I'm going to prop up my Hoyas, I usually will put them in just straight perlite, or I will put them in a mix of tree fern and perlite. And I do have a favorite tree fern that I get from Amazon. So let me go ahead and show you that. Okay, so tree fern can get a little expensive, but I buy mine in these little 2-quart bags that you can get on Amazon. I think they're around $15, but this size bag works perfectly for just mixing a little into my substrate mixes for different plants that I have. But if you're looking for just a basic overall mix for your Hoyas, what I would do is buy just a regular bag of potting soil and then add in some of that tree fern and just a little bit of perlite. And most of my plants that like to dry out a little bit really prefer this type of soil mix. So I will put that recipe in the description for you guys. Next, we're going to talk about fertilizing. You want to make sure that you are fertilizing your Hoyas at least every couple weeks in the growing season, a little bit less in the winter, or if they're getting just a little bit less light than usual. So it just depends on the time of year, but I make sure that I'm fertilizing my Hoyas at least once per month. So most of the time when I'm fertilizing my Hoya, I will just use an all-purpose, all-in-one fertilizer. This one comes in single serving packets that look like this. So you just open up the packet and sprinkle it into your plant. I like to sprinkle this in right before I water my plants. This is more of a slow release fertilizer and it lasts for at least 1 to 2 months. So every 1 to 2 months, you're going to want to replace this and sprinkle some more into your plants. So the fertilizer I've been using the longest is this all-purpose plant food by Miracle-Gro. It's just an all-purpose plant food and it has a little teaspoon in here and the granules are blue and they dissolve in water. So I'll just take a little teaspoon of this and mix it into a gallon. And then I will just pour it into a watering can and water all of my plants with it. And this type of fertilizer is one that I will use every 2 weeks. So yeah, guys, you can just use whatever type of fertilizer you prefer. Just make sure that it is a basic, all-purpose plant food, and I think your Hoyas will do just fine. When I first got into Hoyas, I was doing a lot of research on different ways to care for my Hoya. So I ended up seeing a lot of people were using this orchid plant food mix to mist their Hoyas with, and it's supposed to encourage blooming. I'd say for certain that it works, but I do use this and spray it onto my Hoyas. You will just take your mister and just spray it directly onto the leaves. And this is another great way to fertilize your Hoya. So I will just mist the leaves of all my Hoyas with this spray every couple weeks, especially during the growing season. A lot of people swear by this, so try it for yourself and see. I have had most of my Hoyas for about 2 years now, and most of them have not given me blooms yet. As long as you are feeding it and giving it the proper amount of light, I do think that when it is ready, it will bloom for you guys. Let me go ahead and show you one of the plants that has bloomed the most for me in my Hoya collection, and that is this Hoya calistophylla. This one I got from a local nursery, and this one just seems to put out blooms the most for me. And I don't really do anything different for this one. It is in the window getting that morning sun, and I do mist it with the orchid fertilizer. But I just think the blooms on here are so cute. But other than that, a lot of my Hoyas do get peduncles on them from time to time, especially my Hoya Bella, but most of the time they will get like little peduncles and then they'll just fall off. I think older plants are more likely to bloom. Now that we covered fertilizing and soil, let's go ahead and talk about watering. Currently, I water my Hoya every 7 to 10 days. So I usually wait until my Hoyas are completely dried out before I water them. I find that most of the time, if they do dry out a little bit, they actually grow better for me. So if they are drying out, I'll usually see a little bit more new growth coming in. So that is why I like to let them dry out. So I have heard that if you let your Hoya dry out, it can also encourage blooming. But I don't know if that's true or not. I do find that Hoyas are very hardy for me and very tolerant of my watering schedule. When I do water, I water it thoroughly until the water runs out the bottom. But I don't use any special type of water. I just use regular tap water on my Hoyas, and all of my Hoyas do fine with that. But if you do want your Hoyas to grow faster, I do encourage you to just try letting them dry out a little bit longer in between waterings and see if that helps. So now let's get into our last few tips. Something I have been getting into lately is Hoyas that sun stress. First, I bought this Hoya Ganang, and I'll put the name below for you guys. But this is the first Hoya I got that I really wanted to encourage it to sun stress. It sun stresses this really pretty maroon color. So in order to get my Hoyas to sun stress, if I want to encourage those colors to come out, I do put my Hoyas under a grow light instead of keeping them in the window. I just have found that this encourages those beautiful colors to come out. Another Hoya that I got recently that I wanted to encourage sun stressing on is this Hoya Obscura Silver. This one gets this really pretty purple sun stressing on it. If you can see right there, it just gets this really pretty purple sun stressing, and I really wanted to encourage this one to get that color, so I did put it in my cabinet directly under the grow light, and it has been slowly turning purple on most of the leaves. So the third Hoya that I got that I also wanted to encourage sun stressing on is this Hoya Wilbur, GA, I think is how you say it. I will put the name below for you guys. But this one gets pink sun stressing on its leaves. The camera's not really picking it up, but it does have a little bit of that pink sun stressing coming in there. Another Hoya that gets some really cool sun stressing on it, and that is this Hoya. I will put the name below. This one gets a little bit of purple sun stressing on the edges. You can see a little bit of it, but it's supposed to get more of that purple sun stressing. So I really love this one. This one is currently propped up. I'm getting ready to list this one in my shop. So if you are wanting your Hoya to sun stress, I highly recommend just trying to put them under a grow light for a little bit. Let's go ahead and cover our last few tips for today. I'll show you a system that I like to use just to help me as far as with the watering schedule. So I use these self-watering planters, which it's kind of hard to see, but this is just a DIY planter that I made with strings hanging out the bottom and then a little cup of water. And I just set it in here and the strings help absorb the water that is in the cup. And I have found that this system just helps me for a lot of my plants that are in pond. So that is another tip I have for you guys. If you do want to grow your Hoya in pond, just make sure that you have a self-watering system in place for them. And that will really help with your watering and making sure that they are getting enough water. I was finding that mine were just drying out too quickly and getting dry roots. But yeah, guys, that is just a little tip if you are going to use pond. As we are going over Hoya and Hoya care tips today, I thought it would be fun if I just throw in a few of my favorite Hoyas and the Hoyas that I find the easiest to care for in my collection. So let's go ahead and start with this Hoya Lucanosa Mint. This is a great beginner Hoya. This one grows super fast for me. It just has that minty color to the leaves and the little green speckling on them. And I just think it is a really laid back Hoya in my collection. It doesn't give me any trouble at all, and it grows super quickly. This is one of the fastest growing Hoyas that I own. I got this one as a small little cutting, and it has grown this much since I've got it, and I've also propagated it a few times for my shop. So this is just one of my favorite top Hoyas and probably will always make my list, and I think it is a great beginner plant. So let's go ahead and take a look at another one. So if you saw any of my earlier Hoya videos that I've made, you probably have seen this plant before, but this is another one of my super easy Hoyas. It grows super fast for me, and this is another one that is in that east facing window, but it just really grows out of control. It is on this giant trellis and it already is growing above it. I've had to wrap it around a few times. It doesn't really require too much from me, and it just grows really fast and easy. So that is why I love this one. All right, so I went ahead and grabbed another one of my favorite easy Hoya, and that is this Hoya Obovata Splash. I got this Hoya, this was one of my first Hoyas that I've got in my collection. I got this one from Plants by Melissa. So it's not the fastest grower, but I just find that it's relatively low maintenance and super easy to care for. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and add this one to the list. And lastly, my favorite Hoya is always going to be this Hoya Mathilde. Hoya Mathilde Splash grows super easily for me. It's super dainty and cute, and I just really love the way it looks, but I also find it super easy to care for, and that is why I'm going to go ahead and include this on my list of my top easy to care for Hoyas. Another great one for beginners, and let me go ahead and grab just one more to show you guys. And the last one I'm going to include on this top easy to care for Hoya list is going to be the Hoya Crimson Queen. Easy to find. I think I found this one at a grocery store. They're just a really common but absolutely gorgeous Hoya. Look at that. Beautiful variegation on here. They get that beautiful white variegation, and when the variegation comes in, I can't really pick it up, but it does, the leaves will come in with this pink color, which is really pretty. Yeah, love this Hoya. This one and the Hoya Crimson Princess are probably just a really great Hoya for beginners, and I find them to be very tolerant and easygoing. Now that we've covered the top easiest care Hoyas in my collection, let's go ahead and take a look at a few of my most difficult Hoyas. All right, so I went ahead and grabbed my most finicky Hoya in my collection. This has been the #1 top most difficult Hoya, and is also, I believe, the first Hoya I ever bought. So lucky me for having such a difficult Hoya to start with. That's probably why it took me quite a while into my plant journey for me to even start adding Hoyas, just because this one gave me so much trouble. So this one I got from a local plant boutique. We used to have this little shop, and they sold a bunch of rare plants, but it has since closed down, but it was such a cool store. But anyways, this one is just really finicky and really picky with watering, and if I miss a watering, it will give me dry, crispy leaves like this. But then if I water it too much, it will give me yellow leaves. So this one is one of those that is more of a learn as you go type of Hoya. This is one that I've had to move around a lot and try different types of fertilizer and watering and substrates just to find what works the best for it. But I do try to water this one every week. If I do go a little bit longer, the leaves will get crispy. And if I overwater it, it will get the yellow leaves. So extra careful not to overwater this one. I have found that these little self-watering planters are really helpful as well. So I like to use these for my Hoya that do not like to dry out as much. And this just helps them absorb the water from the bottom when they need it if I'm a little behind on my watering. But yeah, this one is by far the top most difficult Hoya for me. But let's go ahead and take a look at another one. You may have saw me talk about this plant before. This is, oddly enough, one of my favorite Hoyas, but one of my most difficult Hoyas in my collection. This is the Hoya Numeroids. I'll put the name below. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but this is the one that has those tiny, cute little furry leaves that are super soft. I've had this one cutting for a year now, and this is how big it's gotten. That's it. It has probably given me this much new growth in a year. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's working on 2 new leaves. So it's given me 4 new leaves in a year. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this one, but I don't have the heart to get rid of it because I just really adore the tiny little furry leaves on it. So I don't have the heart to get rid of it. But this is another one that is just such a difficult one for me. That is another one that I've had a lot of problems with. So let's go ahead and take a look at one more. All right, guys, here is a look at my last Hoya that I'm going to put on the difficult list. Now, this one is a fast grower, but the issue I have with this one is the fact that it always gives me peduncles, but they always, as you can see, this one's doing it right now. So it will put out peduncles and then it will slowly yellow off and they'll just fall right off, and they never even give me any blooms. I feel like I've just got excited so many times thinking this one's gonna bloom, only to watch the peduncles slowly yellow off and die. So that is why the Hoya Bella is going to be the last plant I'm going to add to my difficult Hoyas list. For the most part, a lot of my Hoyas are very easygoing and do not give me much trouble at all. That is why Hoyas are one of my favorite genus of plants. I just find them really cute and fun to collect and really easygoing and hardy. I think that's going to wrap up all the tips I wanted to cover with you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed learning a few of my favorite Hoya care tips and also enjoyed seeing a few of my favorites and my not so favorite Hoya in my collection. But I would love to hear your favorite Hoya and your least favorite Hoya and why. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and I will talk to you guys soon.